Hey there everybody, Cinema Recap here, and today we're going to take a look at Ajin, Demi-Humans. Spoilers ahead. And then we're greeted with the image of a man in a surgery room. He's all wrapped up in bandages. The doctors then proceed to amputate his hand, as they're directed by a certain Mr. U. Then you hear more directions to cut his legs from knees down and even his shoulders. You also hear the word reset repeated. If you don't get it by now, this is not a surgery to save a life, but to destroy one. Okay, I might have exaggerated that a bit, but you get the point. Now the man being cut up like meat is Key. He's a recently discovered Ajin, and after being struck by a bus on the street some time ago, he came back to life and the video was posted online, which went viral. And since then, his life has become a living nightmare. Get it? Anyways, as Mr. U is briefing his superiors in government on the procedures for handling the Ajin, a van arrives at the Ajin testing facility. While Yu is telling his bosses that their secret is safe, two other Ajin are able to blow their way into the facility. And these are Soto and Tanaka. Yu orders the men to use a lot of tranks on these intruders, because they have to be captured alive. And remember, they can never die. However, both Ajin are here to rescue Key. A gunfight breaks out, which really is a tranquilizer dart fight versus real bullets. And you can guess who's gonna win. Soto's really good at using those assault weapons. Nevertheless, he gets hit by a dart on the arm, and before that thing knocks him out, he cuts his own arm off with a machete. Another two tranks in him on the shoulders. He can't afford to go to sleep and be captured, so he decides to shoot himself in the head. Oh, he's dead by all accounts. A few seconds later, his arm has regenerated, and he wakes up in time to finish off all the building's security personnel left. Soto's next to Key's torture bed, explaining himself as Ajin. He unbinds Key and tells him about that government program that's testing Ajin instead of protecting him. And we see a few doctors hiding in the room. When Soto finds him, hands over that gun to Key and tells him to shoot him. Well, he points the gun at him, but I don't think he can do it. And then he shoots Soto, who dies while still angry. And once Soto comes back to life, he chases Key and the surviving doctors. Now at some point, Key and Soto fight it out with their special move being to kill themselves and wake up re-energized. Alright, that might be an understatement because there's something else. Dark spirits emerge from within both of them and engage in an epic battle. This is also where they draw their reincarnation powers from. Key's able to get to the rooftop and escape while Soto looks on. When he meets up with Tanaka, he tells him how impressed he is. So showtime begins, and Soto rides Tanaka towards where the press are hanging around the same hospital or facility. The press men and women gather around on seeing him and ask away, while Soto puts down their government on the treatment of Ajin. He even directs him to a website with the proof of the torture taken out on Ajin like him and especially on Tanaka. It becomes a trending topic on the news as everyone tunes in. Meanwhile, Key's all tired and walking in the bushes after escaping. Seems to be a rural area, and an old woman spots him, offering some help. She invites him into her house and takes care of his clothing. Key's stomach begins to rumble and she even cooks for him. Now at their hideout, Tanaka's really excited that their story's still trending as he checks social media. Soto over there is more interested on how many people he can kill on his gamepad. Back at the hospital, a female agent is interviewing Key's sister. They talk all sentimentally, but when the agent starts to leave, she becomes suspended in the air and there's blood in her general stomach area. Apparently, someone's Ajin ghost is snuffing her out. Key's sister looks in horror as it throws the female agent across the room, dead. Well, Tanaka's the owner of the dark ghost, and he's all the way downstairs in the hospital parking area. And he's hoping the attack at the hospital will make the news, so he can lure out Key from wherever he's hiding to save his sister, Eriko. However, he isn't expecting that the female agent will wake up. And I was just as surprised as you to see she's an Ajin too. Her name, Izumi, and her own dark ghost is brought in to fight Tanaka's ghost. And as they're both going at each other, this is when Tanaka decides he has to get closer to the action. So he heads out and goes towards the hospital. And by the time he gets to the floor where Izumi and Eriko are, a crowd gathered around, so he can't really do any damage and leaves. And up next, we see a press conference being held to debunk Soto's claims against the government. Mr. Yu is the man fielding questions as expected. Dare say all law establishments have that same type of officer. Mr. Yu goes on by saying the images on the footage were computer generated. So back at the lair, Soto and Tanaka are purchasing weapons. And their dealer's always asking for human organs in exchange for firepower. Creepy guy, but not as creepy as the Ajin. So we see Key working in the garden with the nice old lady that took him in. But this is when he overhears the radio talking about the incident at the hospital with his sister. So he quickly goes over there. And his sister finds a note on the table saying she should get to the roof. And now they're talking about the circumstances they found themselves in. Eriko being such a sweet girl, and Key looking to be the cold one, both literally and figuratively. Now we see Soto shooting a video with Tanaka behind the camera. He's threatening the government for not creating an Ajin-free zone, as they were told a few days back. Soto says the repercussions for this would be the destruction of the Ministry of Health by a bomb blast. Soto goes on to give him the exact time it would happen. Now the government, as well as all interested viewers, get the message. Before we go on, like the video, smash the subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, or Slender Man will haunt your dreams. Far away from the public eye, Key and Eriko are safely bunking with the old lady. Key's taking out some time following the latest news developments, trying to tame his Ajin dark ghost. It's not cooperating with those drills in any way at all. And however, it's not long before fans and girls start snooping around the house where both the brother and sister are staying. Now outside the Ministry of Health, we see some onlookers as well as the press. They're waiting to see if Soto will follow through with that threat. And true to form, he does. But not in the way everyone expected. Soto actually flies a plane into the building and kaboom! There's pandemonium everywhere, people running for their lives. Soto then emerges from the rubble with a new life. He changes his clothes with the help of Tanaka. Now a SWAT team comes in and starts shooting, instructed that they shouldn't give Soto time to regenerate. So they're shooting at him every 3 seconds. And this is when Tanaka starts shooting from his high vantage point like a sniper. This destabilizing officers, making Soto regain the advantage. He's able to neutralize the entire SWAT team. He then goes to share another live video with the authorities. His demands have changed this time around. And he wants the entire city of Tokyo to be reserved as an autonomous area for Ajin. Or else, he'll gas the inhabitants of the city. We see Key watching the events online, and now he and Eriko have to leave at once because their reverse groupies have found him. So the news is abuzz with the plane crash into the ministry building. The public sharing opinions on the Ajin, the government now forced to negotiate with the Ajin. They start to set up a special communication link with Soto. And we know that once any government says they're talking to so-called criminals, it's a front for finding out their exact location. As such, a techie's always nearby. So, in this vein, the government offers 2 options, which are an island off the coast or a city called Haikido. Soto took it into consideration and rejected, insisting on having Tokyo before he cuts that connection. Some of the new Ajin protest and try to leave, but Soto shoots them and traps their severed heads in a drum as punishment. Could be the definition of pure evil itself. And now we see Eriko's waiting at a diner for someone, but the shot changes to the underbelly of a flyover. Key's in the car with Mr. Yu, 2 people you'd never thought would be up close and personal like this. And there's more. Key's proposing they can work together to take down Soto. And why would he make such a deal at all after what happened to him? Oh, okay, he wants something too. 'Cause it's not a give-and-take charity. Key wants government protection for his sister and a new identity for himself, and that the government stops seeking him out. He throws that cherry on the cake when he says his dark ghost will haunt down Mr. Yu's fiancée if anything goes sideways. Now we're talking. So Mr. Yu agrees with this plan. And the next thing you know, they're deliberating in a room with a few other men. Mission: to apprehend Soto when he goes to obtain the poisonous gas. And this time, they'll go in with a smaller-sized elite force, nicknamed the Anti-Demis. And then, Eriko's guest finally arrives. It's Agent Izumi, come to be the chaperone. And now the team arrive at the Forge Industries headquarters, the spot where Soto's stealing the gas from. They articulate that plan, with Key being instrumental to this. Meanwhile, an Ajin on Soto's side had been able to infiltrate the building by riding in a wheelchair. He heads on towards the computer in the server room and is able to tamper with the security system. The van carrying Soto's men then arrives, as Tanaka and the rest shoot their way into the building and pass the metal detectors. Ki and the other officers move into position. The Ajin assault begins, as Tanaka and his men blast away from building floor to building floor. Ki planted himself in there as building security, and once all those guards have been shot and died, with himself included, he wakes up, and he reports back to Mr. Yu that Soto's not with his Ajin men. This is after they left all the security guards for dead. Meanwhile, Soto's somewhere else entirely, some industrial park which he gets to on a bicycle. The people back at Forge Industries have realized that the Ajin attack there was a decoy. So what now? Mr. Yu and Izumi are able to locate the Ajin hacker with the help of Ki. The other 3 Ajin rebels become trapped in a room and Ki's able to impede their vision with some Ajin dust. This gives the other officers the chance to tranquilize them. And Soto, well, still nowhere to be found. Actually, his plan's taken shape. And he's at the adjoining factory appraising the potential of a wood chipper with a custodian there. He gets on the machine while grinding himself and is immediately transported to the very room his fellows were taken. It's a really twisted version of Beam Me Up Scotty. Soto starts shooting everyone in sight, while men are taking cover. Ki and Mr. Yu listen in, getting word of Soto's appearance. So now Ki gives the signal, trying to use the same move they used on the other Ajin. They gotta distract Soto for a long time to successfully shoot some tranq darts. At first, it seems like he's knocked out, as the boss of the Forge Industries laughs and brags about taking him down. But it turns out his ghost protected him. Peekaboo, Soto kills the rest of them, and goes on to revive Tanaka. Now Ki arrives a little bit late, and Soto communicates with him on the earpiece. He reveals how he got into the building incognito by leaving a part of his body with the authorities, specifically his hand. Soto's able to access the poison gas he came for with the help of the boss's limb. And now he's headed to the roof of the skyscraper, even inviting Ki to join him. Now Mr. Yu is with Izumi when Tanaka cuts him off. While Tanaka's dark ghost is fighting Izumi's ghost, which he nicknamed Blackie, Ki's ghost is also engaged in fighting with Soto's. Now for the latter, they're fighting over the vial containing the poison gas. But it's gotta be said, both battles are epic. But with a huge big riddle hanging over all of this. And that's, how do you even kill a person who's unkillable? And we're not talking like a die-hard invincibility. This is a challenge. So I can only say we'll see what happens. And we see that fighting continue on all fronts. Izumi orchestrates a move that she uses to break Tanaka's arm. On the other side, Soto and Ki reset themselves, as Soto's giving a pep talk about human beings being inferior to a Ajin. Ki's not buying any of that, and allows his ghost to attack for what looks like the final showdown. On the other end, Izumi's still battling with Tanaka when Mr. Yu distracts him long enough for Izumi to trank him. Other side, Soto also gets tranked, with the combination of knocks you might only see in a video game. It's with the help of his ghost that Ki achieves this. But before you get your hopes up, Soto somehow comes back to life. Oh, I didn't see that coming. Ki's lying on the ground too weak to fight back. He calls up on his dark ghost, but it's not responding. And just when Soto tries to shoot Ki in the face, the anti-demis jump into the room from their helicopter and kind of finish Soto in a tactical way. You too would be impressed, and why didn't anyone else think of that? They basically take nitrogen gas, freeze them, and then shatter the ice figures. And just when Mr. Yu is telling Izumi about Ki's sacrifice, he reemerges in the corner. That's that leftover hand trick again. The anti-demi starts shooting at Ki despite what Mr. Yu's telling him. But then Ki's able to jump out the window and like free fall from the skyscraper. And it's a sure thing that he'll survive that fall, as long as his dark ghost is inside of him. Ajin Demi-Humans is an action sci-fi movie released back in 2017, directed by Katsuyuki Motohiro. Like we said, the story is adapted from the manga comic book series of the same name, starring Takeru Sato, Go Ayano, Yu Shirts, Minami Harnabi, Rina Kawe, and Tatsuyi Tamayaki. It was distributed by Toho.